Hi there, I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
And I'm Coach Victoria.
And in this video, we've got an avoidant dumper who wonders, is it wishful thinking to get their ex back?
I have a feeling this one is going to be very insightful for you all.
You guys always doubt that your avoidant ex is thinking about you, that they care, that they would ever come back. And we always see avoidant exes come back. Mm-hmm. It usually doesn't happen as quickly as you would like it to, but that's okay because it gives you time to step back, to really reflect on the relationship, figure out what went wrong, and how to do things differently.
Yeah, and I think this can be helpful for you all to see the other side of things. When we're going through a breakup, sometimes we don't hear anything from our ex. We just assume that nothing is happening, that they're not feeling anything, that they're not going through their own feelings of longings and thoughts and grief. But it's true. Things, process differently for somebody with an avoidant attachment style. And I think this is important to see.
Yes. So when you wonder day and night about your ex, if they're thinking about you, if they'll ever come back, just know there are going to be long periods where it doesn't look like they'll ever come back. Mm-hmm. That is common, especially if the avoidant or if your dumper was avoidant. But they do miss you. They do think about you. They do wonder if it was a mistake. And here's just another example of one of those situations. They said, "Hi, Coach Craig. Thank you for the opportunity to get a professional coaching from you. I have a relatively unique situation. I'm in my late 30s, and in 2015, I met a girl in another country. Let's just say it's on the other side of the world, on a Facebook group of an artist we both like, and she's a few years older than me. She was married at the time. It began as a friendship, but we developed a deep connection. But it wasn't romantic as she was married. Her marriage ended a few years later when her husband cheated on her and left to be with another woman. Around 2020-ish, we started getting closer and more intimate in our chats and phone/video chats. She really wanted a committed online relationship with me because of our connection, but I was always hesitant. And like I said, I'm not going to say which country it is, but it's definitely on the other side of the world.
It would be an expensive and a very long plane ticket.
Yes. I have gone to therapy for avoidant attachment, even though I did have feelings for her as well. I'm in the U.S., and distance of that magnitude almost seems impossible. We continued on in this limbo until summer of 2025.
People are like, is she in Antarctica? What's going on?
Yeah, it's far. When we had a bit of an argument, and I said, we can never be together over the internet, and told her to get over it. And she was upset, telling me, you can't turn off feelings. How can you say that? Okay, so that was pretty cold. Mm-hmm. An avoidant can get pretty cold like this,
I could see it's difficult when we're dealing with this amount of distance. It's a hard thing to commit to a long distance relationship, especially one that is this far and, would take this amount of effort to see each other. So yeah. I know that comes with its own challenges, and not everybody is up for that challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. He says, of course, I now regret saying that. It's important to note that we talked every day for almost 10 years. So I started feeling a certain way when we weren't talking regularly anymore after that argument. A few months went by. We stayed friends, but our daily talks dwindled to maybe once or twice a week. Only small talk, which I ultimately hated.
I wonder if they had seen each other within this time.
That is the same thing I wondered while I was doing this coaching.
Because it's far, but in 10 years, you could save up for a plane ticket to see somebody that you love.
I don't think they did see each other.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
And when I was doing the coaching, I was kind of trying to keep both scenarios in mind and kind of talking about both those things, because he doesn't actually say if they ever saw each other. Mm-hmm. So let's keep going and you can see what you think.
Okay.
As of December of 2025, I really started missing her. Now, mind you, that's about 6 months. Remember? They got into this big argument in the summertime, right? That's what he said, I believe. Yes. Mm-hmm. Okay. You remember I said the part about limbo, and that was summer of 2025. So now we got like 6 months later. He said, I really started missing her, and those feelings I suppressed for so long came bubbling back. And even though we stayed in contact, upon me confessing these feelings and wanting another chance, she has become completely distant and silent, and now she won't talk to me at all, at least not about her feelings. Okay, so it sounds to me like they were in barely any contact for the last 6 months. All of a sudden, he tells her how he's feeling, probably shocked him, probably surprised him, and I suspect she was probably talking to somebody else, right? Because it's been like 6 months.
Yeah. And distance is hard. If she's meeting people organically in person, that can, not that one is stronger than the other. We know that you can have intense feelings for someone, even if they are very far away. That definitely can happen. But I wonder if that's become, more of a distraction, is seeing people face to face, potentially playing with the idea of having a local relationship and how that might be different.
Yeah, I can't help but think, at the time it was probably incredibly painful for her, but as time went by, she probably started to think, you know what, I can't move there, he can't move here. I'm assuming, because you guys didn't make that effort, it sounds like, or even talk about it. I don't know. That maybe she just kind of gave up on the idea of it because of the distance.
Yeah, it could be.
She still likes my post, and she freaked out a few weeks ago when I deleted my Facebook for a few days, thinking I deleted her. I had to reassure her I was just taking a break. So she obviously still wants me in her life. I imagine I stirred up all these feelings in her mind, and she's overwhelmed by our situation and wasn't expecting me to change my mind. Basically, my question is, if she had strong feelings for so long, and now she's detached from me when my feelings became strong, will there be a chance that she finds her feelings again? Is it similar to a breakup where we need to give each other space to figure things out? Our mutual favorite artist has a concert this spring in the U.S., and we were planning to meet there and hang out for a week, but it all seems up in the air at this point. I feel more pressure to resolve this because of that. Yet, I know I can't quote-unquote resolve it because she has to figure out what she wants. I feel like our deep, decade-long bond will be a saving grace. Wishful thinking, perhaps. I appreciate any insight you could provide.
10 years is a long time.
Yeah.
And building that connection, talking daily, not only just text, but video chats, phone call, is the sound of her voice. That is a deep attachment.
Yeah, I agree. I think his approach here was probably to come on way too strong when he dumped all those feelings after 6 months. It probably shocked her and overwhelmed her. He should have probably tried to ease into that just by spending more time with her on the phone and allowing to see if she started to talk about those feelings again naturally, instead of creating this dynamic where now all of a sudden somebody's like, wait, now after 6 months, you want this?
Yeah. It seems like there's chemistry there. I know he had mentioned there was a point where he had removed his Facebook for a while and she panicked. So it sounds like she probably would still be open to a conversation at some point, but it sounds like at this moment there's some space between them. I would allow her to reach out and give her that space. I wouldn't overwhelm her anymore. You've said your piece. Now we just let that sit.
I think my goal here would be to, leave her be, and I'm sure she'll reach out. They've talked for 10 years, and I'm sure she misses that friendship. And just focus on just enjoying having fun again over the phone and seeing if she'd be willing to meet you when she goes to this concert. That could be a whole different change to this dynamic. What would it be like to hang out in person? Is the chemistry going to be there? Is it going to be the same? Is it going to be better? Is it not going to be there? But I think, allowing, some space for this to cool off and just to have some light chatting in the meantime, and see what happens when she comes to the US and they can meet in person. Because it doesn't seem like they've met before, right?
Yeah, that's the vibe that I'm getting. It sounds like they were planning on traveling. We don't know if she is still planning on traveling for this artist. And so I would touch base with her once she reaches out to you and you're able to kind of check in and see how things are going and see if that's still in the cards.
Yeah, I would casually say, I'd love to see you when you're in town. I thought it'd be great if we could get together, go do something fun. We've been talking for such a long time. It would be a shame if we didn't actually get to meet in person. And just keep it light and fun and see what happens when they're together. And that would be my goal here. Because ultimately, look, you need to figure out who, if you guys were to do this, would one of you be able to move to be with the other? I think it'd be pointless to try and quote unquote get back into a romantic relationship if ultimately one of you can't live near each other.
Right. And now you're 10 years older than you were when you first started dating. So goals might be different. Ideas of the future might be different. These are important conversations to talk about because it sounds like, both of you are trying to be in a relationship with only one person, each other.
Yeah.
And this could be restricting if there are different plans or different goals for the future. So not that this will be the first conversation you have with her when trying to rebuild, but something to keep in the back of your mind of if you're talking every day, I wonder how much these topics come up and how much weight they carry because they really do have real world significance.
Yep. Ultimately, you got to see if this can escalate to another level where if you guys do see each other and the chemistry is there and you start talking more, can this happen in the real world as opposed to this long distance relationship across the world? I don't even know how they could talk so often. The differential in the time zones is like, it's at least 12 hours, something like that.
Yeah.
It might be 13 hours, something like that.
One of them is not getting good sleep.
Exactly. Or one's working a night shift and the other one's working the mornings or something. I don't know. But yeah, if this can, become something more than long distance, then I'd say go for it, see how it can spark up. But I wouldn't continue doing this if you guys ultimately, one of you can't move to be with the other or you can't find a common place to go together.
Yeah. In the very least, thinking about what your goals are. If you're okay with it being the way it has been, then that's one thing. But, it sounds like this could be a good turning point to talk about where this is going.
And guys, just to think about when you're doing an email coaching with me, consider an important detail, like if you've ever met or seen each other. Like when you talk about a long distance scenario, you can say like, oh, we've seen each other 4 times over the last 6 months and, we spend a week or 2 together at a time. Little things like that, as opposed to not knowing if they've ever met. I don't think they did in this case, but it would have been nice to know for sure.
Frequency is important.
Yeah. So something like that is important, especially in an email coaching, as opposed to, if we're talking, I can easily clarify that.
Right.
All right. So hopefully this one's been helpful to you. If you'd like to get our help personally, go to our website, askcraig.net. I do email coaching and I do Zoom calls. You can also get a Zoom call with Coach Victoria.
I am here whenever you'd like to chat.
Just click on her name at the top of the website to schedule with her. But that's it for this video. I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
And I'm Coach Victoria.
And we will talk with you soon.